I Love Lucy wasn't just a sitcom. It was a show that changed TV forever. It broke records, ruled the ratings, and turned Lucille Ball into a global icon with a comedy style no one could copy. Fans laughed at every chocolate factory meltdown, every wild scheme, and every moment Lucy Ricardo pushed the limit. But behind all the fun, there were real tensions, private fears, and one episode filmed in 1956 that Lucille herself refused to ever watch again. Most fans don't know why. Most never will until now. Join us as we take a closer look at the secrets, the episodes, and why Lucille couldn't face this one moment. Lucille Ball's path to Hollywood. Lucille Ball's journey started long before I Love Lucy ever hit television. She began as a model in New York where she caught the eye of Samuel Goldwyn. He chose her to be one of his famous Goldwyn girls, and she appeared in the film Roman Scandals in 1933. Lucille was known for being focused, excited, and always ready to work hard. That energy helped her get steady film roles at several studios, including Columbia Pictures and then RKO Radio Pictures. At RKO, she slowly climbed from being an extra to getting co-starring roles in movies. People in Hollywood began to call her the Queen of the Bees because she starred in many lower-budget films, but always brought life to every role. Lucille wasn't afraid to do stunts or physical comedy, even when other actresses refused. That reputation followed her everywhere and soon became one of her biggest strengths. It was at RKO where Lucille met Desi Arnaz, a talented Cuban bandleader. They worked together on the movie Too Many Girls in 1940, and the chemistry was instant. They fell in love fast and ended up eloping that same year in Connecticut. But their marriage wasn't simple. Lucille's film work kept her in Hollywood while Desi performed in nightclubs around the country. They loved each other, but their careers forced them apart often. Still, Lucille stayed in the public eye. MGM noticed her after she got praise for The Big Street in 1942 and bought out her contract. Working under MGM, she changed her look by dyeing her hair red. MGM tried to place her in many film genres, but none truly fit her. Even so, her comedy work with Red Skeleton in the 1943 film Dubberry was a lady made people pay attention. She was funny, bold, and beautiful, a rare mix. But in 1946, MGM didn't renew her contract. Lucille wasn't discouraged. Instead, she started working as a freelance actress. And this next step would change her life forever. Because this is when radio came calling and everything shifted toward television soon after. From radio stardom to a television chance. Before I Love Lucy, Lucille became a hit on radio. She appeared on popular programs hosted by Jack Haley and bandleader Kay Kaiser. These small moments opened big doors. In 1948, CBS offered her a role in a new radio sitcom called My Favorite Husband. She played Liz Cuggett, later changed to Liz Cooper, a funny and clever housewife who always had a plan. The show was written by Jess Oppenheimer, Malene Pugh, and Bob Carroll Jr., who would later write I Love Lucy. My Favorite Husband became a success, and audiences loved Lucille's timing and charm. While acting on the radio, she also appeared in 2 films with Bob Hope, Sorrowful Jones in 1949 and Fancy Pants in 1950. Both movies were box office hits and showed that Lucille had become a true star. These films also reminded CBS how valuable she was. So in 1950, they asked her to bring My Favorite Husband to television. But Lucille had one condition. She wanted her real husband, Desi Arnaz, to play her TV husband. CBS didn't like the idea. Executives believed viewers would not accept an all-American girl married to a Cuban man, but Lucille didn't back down. To prove CBS wrong, she and Desi created a live vaudeville show. They toured with Desi's orchestra and performed comedy scenes written by Pugh and Carroll. The audiences loved them. Their act convinced CBS executive Harry Orman that the couple should star together. NBC, ABC, and Dumont also showed interest, giving CBS another reason to move fast. CBS finally agreed, and a pilot was filmed in March 1951, right when Lucille was pregnant. The writers from My Favorite Husband joined the team, and Philip Morris became the sponsor after some searching. And with that, the earliest version of I Love Lucy was born. But no one knew it would soon become one of the most important shows in television history. The Rise of I Love Lucy. I Love Lucy premiered on October 15, 1951. It aired on CBS and starred Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz, Vivian Vance, and William Frawley. The show followed Lucy Ricardo, a curious and determined New York housewife who always dreamed of being in show business. Her plans usually involve her best friends and landlords, Ethel and Fred Mertz, who often got pulled into her wild ideas. Ricky Ricardo, her husband and a nightclub band leader, tried to keep things under control, but Lucy's imagination always won. The show became a major hit. Out of its 6 seasons, 4 were the most watched shows in America. It became the first show to end its final season as the #1 program in the Nielsen ratings. After its end in 1957, the story continued through 13 one-hour special for 1957 to 1960 under different titles. I Love Lucy also broke technical ground. It was the first scripted show filmed on 35mm film in front of a live studio audience. Cinematographer Carl Fryan helped make this happen, creating a new standard for television. The show won 5 Emmy Awards and was praised for its writing and cast. In fact, it was the first show to use a true ensemble cast, which later became a trend in sitcoms. Lucille stayed strong even during tough moments, like when she was questioned about communist ties in 1953. During one filming, Desi calmed the audience by joking, "In fact, that's the only thing." Read about her, and even that's not legitimate, Lucille Ball. For decades, the show remained beloved. It stayed popular in syndication, aired in dozens of languages, and continued to attract millions of viewers, even in colorized reruns more than 60 years later. But behind all this success, one part of the show brought a very different emotion for Lucille, a moment she never wanted to relive. A beloved sitcom with a hidden pain. With all its success, I Love Lucy felt bright and joyful. Fans saw funny scenes, wild plans, and unforgettable episodes. But behind that joy were personal struggles, long hours, and moments that hit Lucille in ways viewers never knew. She was a perfectionist who gave every scene her full effort, and the world loved her for it. The show may have looked easy, but it came with pressure. The cast worked long days. Lucille and Desi balanced marriage, work, fame, and endless expectations. Some episodes brought laughter on screen, but stress behind the scenes. And among the many legendary episodes filmed over 6 seasons, one from 1956 stood out for a heartbreaking reason. A reason so personal that Lucille refused to ever watch it again. That single episode carried memories she didn't want to revisit, and those memories changed how she saw that moment forever. By the spring and summer of 1951, I Love Lucy was finally ready to move from planning to real production. Jess Oppenheimer, Malene Pugh, and Bob Carroll Jr. began shaping the stories that would become the first episodes. They already had a strong base to work from. Many ideas came from their earlier radio show, My Favorite Husband, which had given Lucille Ball her first taste of sitcom success. They now had to bring that same charm to television. As the writers worked, Desi Arnaz gathered the rest of the team. He kept his entire orchestra, which added music to every episode. His childhood friend, Marco Rizzo, arranged the music and played the piano. Wilbur Hatch conducted the orchestra, giving the show its warm, lively sound. Everything seemed to be falling into place. But 2 major problems appeared as soon as Philip Morris agreed to sponsor the show. The first issue was scheduling. Lucille and Desi wanted the show to air every 2 weeks. That way, Lucille could still work on films while doing the series. Philip Morris refused. They demanded a weekly show. That one decision changed everything, because it meant Lucille had to give up her movie career if she wanted the sitcom to continue. The second problem was location. Philip Morris wanted the show produced in New York, which was the center of live television in those days. Audiences on the East Coast were used to high-quality live broadcasts. But Lucille and Desi needed to stay in Hollywood because their first child was on the way. If the show was filmed in Hollywood, it would need to be recorded on film instead of broadcast live. At that time, West Coast viewers only got live shows through kinescopes, grainy recordings made by filming a TV screen. Philip Morris did not want their biggest audience watching a low-quality picture, and CBS agreed. The sponsors and the network pushed hard for New York. Lucille and Desi pushed back just as hard. They wanted to film the show properly in Hollywood. They didn't want kinescopes, and they didn't want to move across the country. They found one way to make the network change its mind. They offered to take a $100 a week pay cut to make up for the higher cost of filming. Only then did CBS and Philip Morris agree. Lucille and Desi won the battle, but their victory came with a price. If the show was filmed, they would have to produce it themselves. That meant creating a real production company. Desi took the small company he once used for booking his orchestra and turned it into the studio that would run the show. They named it Desilu, combining both of their names. The fight to keep the show in Hollywood was tough, but it opened the door to something that would change television forever. Yet, they still had one more problem to solve before they could move forward: creating a new way to film television. Even though some Hollywood shows were filmed at the time, most used a single camera. Then the producers added a fake laugh track later to make it sound like a real audience was watching. Lucille Ball hated that idea. She wanted a real audience because she performed best when people reacted in the moment. Her comedy depended on timing, energy, and the sound of real laughter. But filming in front of a live audience was not easy. Fire laws made it difficult to seat people inside film studios. Desi Arnaz and Jess Oppenheimer searched for a place that could be modified. They found General Service Studios in Hollywood, a struggling studio owned by Jimmy Nasser. Nasser was so eager for business that he agreed to let them renovate the space. With CBS providing financial support, 2 studios were rebuilt so that audiences could sit safely inside. Then came another breakthrough. Instead of using one camera, the team chose to use 335mm cameras at the same time. This idea had been tested by others, but no sitcom had fully committed to it. Ralph Edwards' assistant, Al Simon, was brought in to help the team perfect the process. 3 cameras meant they could film everything live, like a stage play. They would not have to repeat scenes over and over. Viewers at home would feel the same energy the audience felt in the room. Retakes became rare. Even small mistakes sometimes stayed in the show because they felt natural. To make the 3-camera system work, they needed a cinematographer who understood film better than almost anyone else. They turned to Carl Freud, a legendary cameraman who had worked on Metropolis, Dracula, and many other classics. At first, Freud did not want to work in television, but Lucille and Desi personally asked him, and he finally agreed. Fry became one of the most important parts of the show. He invented a way to light the entire set evenly so all 3 cameras captured the same quality. This flat lighting made scenes bright, clean, and ready for broadcast. Fry said that a full episode, which ran about 20 minutes on screen, could be filmed in just 60 minutes. The only challenge he worried about was the contrast of the final print. Every stage of transmission from filming to airing could increase the contrast, so he constantly checked the shades of gray. The live audiences added even more magic. The laughs were real, and sometimes you could hear the same audience members in different episodes. Desi's laugh could be heard when he wasn't even in the scene. Lucille's mother, Dee, often sat in the audience, too. Her famous "oh" was heard in many episodes. The success of the 3-camera system changed Hollywood. Soon it became the standard way to film sitcoms with live audiences. Love, laughter, and cracks behind the perfect sitcom. When I Love Lucy first came on TV in 1951, it didn't look like just another show. It followed Lucy and Ricky Ricardo in their small New York apartment, with most of the chaos coming from Lucy's big dreams and bad ideas. Their landlords, Fred and Ethel Mertz, soon turned into their closest friends. And almost every problem somehow came back to Lucy spending too much or trying to sneak into show business. Every episode wrapped up neatly in about 25 minutes with the couple somehow fixing things by the end, and that made people feel safe and entertained at the same time. The heart of the show was always the Lucy-Ricky relationship, which is why it was so shocking when Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz divorced after the series ended. On screen, they looked strong, But off-screen things were more complicated. The film, being the Ricardos, looks at exactly that. It doesn't try to tell their whole life story. Instead, it focuses on just one production week of I Love Lucy built around the season one episode Fred and Ethel fight. During this week, Lucille faces accusations about her supposed ties to the Communist Party. Desi's cheating becomes an open wound, and the couple has to decide whether Lucy's